Well, we were talking primarily about consumers' relative resistance to better for you snacks, and the fact that regardless of which country you're looking at, regardless of the age of consumer, it's all still about taste. It's about taste, it's about the brand, and it's not really about the health values. So, low-in values in particular don't resonate with the consumer in the category. It's too indulgence driven, and consumers don't feel those values are appropriate. What does work is a softer message. Perhaps a healthy halo created by a superfood ingredient or by super grains or ancient grains, things like that. So not shouting about low fat on the front of the pack because consumers think low fat, low taste, but talking about something that's added value. You can have all the regulation you like, but at the end of the day, the consumer's got to want the product. And then there's no evidence that consumers, real mass market consumers, will buy into a low-fat, low-calorie message, for example. You've got to think about other ways of approaching better for you. And I think the industry needs to think a little bit harder, perhaps a little bit more at an angle about what the health values are that really work for consumers. There's important work in the background in terms of fat reduction, salt reduction, things like that, but that's not something that you want to communicate on the package necessarily. So you do that in the background, but talk about the positives of healthy eating, not the negatives. That's really, I think, the answer. Well, I think consumers are still going to keep going back to the same traditional flavours. The flavour profiles of preferences haven't changed significantly over the last several years, but the younger millennial generation is much more open to new flavour experiences and new textures as well. And I think there's an awful lot that could be done in better for you snacks with a twist around the flavour, a twist around the texture, because you can't just make a lower fat version of something that already exists, because it's always going to be compared unfavourably. If you can twist it via texture, via flavour, but maybe use the brand, then you can make something which really will work with the consumer. Well, it's not immune to snacking. Snacking typically declines with age, so older consumers typically snack less. Having said that, there's some movement and there's some change coming, I think, because younger consumers will carry on some of that behaviour through into older generations. So the opportunity is going to be bigger, not smaller, for the future. But the problem is, how do you target the older consumer? You can't say it's for the older consumer because they won't buy it. You've got to think about maybe a better for you formulation and think about the values that are important to that older consumer, but not shout about that on the package. And that's a big challenge. Again, I don't think it's immune to it, but I think you've got to again think about how appropriate a snack product is to carry those kind of benefits. At the end of the day, healthy eating is about moderation and balance, and that's as true of the snacks category as any other category. So to some extent, I think you need to think about the older consumer. You need to think about formulations that may be more appropriate for the older consumer. But at the end of the day, you're making an indulgent snack, and you can only push it so far. If you start to put attributes that are inappropriate, then no one's going to buy it at all.